Throughout the first half of 1185, you really start to sense that the flashback is over and we are finally going to get a good ending to a flashback in One Piece. Yet, as the pages continue to flip, you start to realize it is not over and we are in fact going to be getting another tragic backstory, and probably the most tragic one we have gotten to date. 1185 opens up with the cover of Boa Hancock cooking some meat that she seemed to have learned over the 2 years that she has spent with Luffy, and of course somebody had to cook for her. So it's really cool to see that we are starting to get more of Boa. The last time we saw her is when she was getting attacked by Blackbeard and Rayleigh had to step in. So it is really cool to see her getting reintroduced into the story. The first page of the chapter opens up with Leuven, Brook, and Candel, and we get to see Leuven give Candel the command in the order to make Brook his page. And from Brook basically going from the bottom to all the way to the top of society right now, it's just throwing him for a loop. He has never seen someplace so nice. And of course that he has been in poverty all of his life. He doesn't have good manners. So Candel has to teach him and basically build him from the ground up. And it's really funny to see how these two interact, and I'm absolutely loving the chemistry between them. As we turn the page to page 2, we then see Candel and Brook basically talking about what he wants to do in the future and him basically training with Candel. And I'm absolutely loving that Brook is learning his swordsmanship from Candel, somebody that I believe to have a much higher role than what she is giving off right now. We'll get into that later in the video. But we can see Brook basically picking up and basically saying how he wants to continue to make music and he also wants to continue to learn swordsmanship. And it is just the blueprint of the Brook we know in the current story. Yet we see Brook and Candel have a very interesting conversation. We see him ask her about his type, and she goes on to say that the guy she loves is out of his league, as she gives off this kind of smirk. And we all know who that's talking about, Leuven, but it's very interesting. Why does she think he's out of his league? Is it just because of her position? Is she playing her mission too well? I don't know. We will see as the chapter continues. As the page ends with Brook mocking Candel, as alluding to if Candel dressed more like a woman, she would get the attention that she wants from Leuven, which is very funny because she goes on to say that being near him is more than enough. As Candel and Brook continue their conversation, we get to see Brook ask Candel his famous question. And Candel doesn't take that very lightly, and she teaches Brook a lesson in the middle of the street. Yes, the middle of the street with everybody watching, and Candel goes on to say that strength and etiquette go hand in hand, as that is something that Brook cannot neglect if he wants to be as powerful as he seems. Brook goes on to compare Candel to a sun, saying how she shines upon the entire kingdom, and there was once a time when a celestial dragon ship arrived at Esperia and she ended up bedridden for months after this moment. As Brook goes on to tell us and Shuri that Prince Leuven arose the throne and married Lady Candel at the same exact time, which is very interesting that this all happened when the Celestial Dragons just visited Lady Candel and she just got bedridden. Very interesting to think about, because we then go on to find out that Shuri was conceived around the same exact time all this is happening. Is this a coincidence that this all happened after Lady Candel was visited by the Celestial Dragons? I don't know. If you guys know, I had a theory about Brook being a Holy Knight. Unfortunately, as we'll come to find out, I believe this theory is dead, but I did say something else in that theory. Shuri is an Emu genetically born vessel. I think that is exactly what happened. I think the Celestial Dragons did something to Candel to make her not compromise her mission, and then she went on to succeed it. We then see a flurry of wholesome moments between Shuri and Brook as we go into Shuri's 15th year of life on the kingdom. And the kingdom has gotten very dark. Music is dead, and Esperia was the music kingdom. There is smoke all around the kingdom, and it is very gloomy on Esperia currently. As this didn't stop Brook, as we see him in the streets preaching and singing music and holding a concert, as we then go on to find out that this thick smoke is poisonous and toxic and has claimed the lives of thousands of people on Esperia. As we then go over to a speech from Lady Candel saying that the fog will clear up, it must. And as soon as Lady Candel is done raising the morale of her citizens on Esperia, we then flip to the next page where we are at Lady Candel's funeral. And just like that, Oda has taken what seemed to be a wholesome chapter and a chapter where we thought we were finally getting back to the main story, flipped it on its head. We then see Shuri, Leuven, and Brook all breaking down at this funeral, and nobody can contain themselves. With everybody grieving Lady Candel's death, we then go on to find out that the government is seeking taxes from Esperia and they cannot pay them. With political affairs coming to an absolute climax, we then see Shuri and Brook basically training, and Shuri wants to get on the front line. She wants to pick up what her mother left. She wants to fight. Yet Brook doesn't want that. He says that Leuven will not allow that, and this is not something that Shuri should be doing. With Shuri and Brook concluding their conversation, we next jump to Leuven, and he declares war on the world government. With Brook not even questioning Leuven's decision, we see people of the kingdom ask Leuven why he has made this decision, and he goes on to say that they demanded 1,000 slaves as opposed to their heavenly tribute that they cannot pay this year. And Leuven says that becoming a slave in the Holy Land is a fate worse than death. And while that is a common fact in the One Piece universe, I really do feel like we should put that in the back of our mind, because it seems like Leuven is talking out of personal experience. While he might not be a slave himself, he might know somebody that was a slave. And with Leuven possibly being a Davy, I feel like that is a important note that a lot of people are skipping up on. And Leuven gives us a timeline. He says the government armada is set to arrive in 2 months, and he does not intend to give human sacrifices in state for the heavenly tribute. On the next page, we find a double spread of carnage and war, with us going 2 months into the future, and Brook is fighting Marines, gangsters, raiders, all of the above, and it seems like Esperia has turned into living hell. As we then see Esperia, and it is truly a living hell. Everything is set on fire. The junkyard that Brook grew up in set ablaze. It is burned to ash. As we then see Brook run into the castle, and we can hear nothing but somebody shouting, "Your Majesty," and Princess Shuri. With Brook looking like he's seen a ghost, he bursts into the room, and what does he see? Leuven Dami reversied, Princess Shuri Dami reversied, and a man standing over him with Mars in the corner of the room. Saint Mars in the corner of the room. With Brook unable to speak and just shut down in total fear, we then see Shuri talk. As she then goes on to say, "Worried about war, it's already over. Aren't you happy, Brook?" As we then get a close-up shot of Shuri, the man smoking a cigar, and Brook. And 1185 was a roller coaster of emotions, from the wholesome interactions between Shuri and Brook to the devastating end of the chapter that we got with the two Dami reversing Shuri and Leuven. And not to mention the mystery character that we saw at the end of the chapter. I honestly don't know who he is. A lot of people think he's a Holy Knight. A lot of people think he's an admiral because of, as we have seen on Egghead, admirals accompany Gorosei when they arrive on places. But my question is, how the hell did Mars get there? As we know from Egghead, you either have to get there and then you could summon yourself through a pentagram, or you have to summon yourself through a pentagram through the abyss, like we saw on Elbaf or the other Gorosei arriving at Egghead. So, is it possible that we could see Candel draw a pentagram before she dies somewhere in the castle, and that is what happens? Also, Leuven got Dami reversied, and Shuri's Dami reversing. There's so much going on in this chapter that I can just not unpack it all, and I really do feel like this is the best Brook flashback we have gotten so far, and it looks like we're going to continue to get more. This is not where we are ending off a Brook flashback at all, I don't believe. And you know, with the break, Oda has a lot in store for next chapter, and I honestly cannot wait for that. I'm just curious to see where Brook character goes from here. I feel like more than anyone else. Of course, I want to see where Shuri's going with her being Dami reversing. A lot of people think that Gunko Shuri is going to be a major asset in the upcoming war that we have with the world government, finding the One Piece, the endgame of One Piece itself. But I feel like Brook is an even more interesting character here, as we do know that he has more memories of Shuri, and he sees Shuri get gated off to the Holy Land. So could we see Brook end up left for dead and the Rumbar Pirates pick him up? I honestly don't know, to be honest with you. And where the hell does Shuri's character go from here? As we know from Elbaf and seeing Gunko's character in action, she is somewhat sentient. While she doesn't quite remember a lot of stuff and her memory is fuzzy, she does know some stuff that's going on. But as I talked about earlier in the video, I really do feel like she was genetically bred to be this vessel. I would honestly be extremely shocked if this is just a random kingdom, because how would you explain a Gorosei member and a unknown mystery character coming there? And speaking about that mystery guy, I saw an amazing theory on TikTok that I want to speak about a little bit by the creator of Jordan. He makes amazing content, and I couldn't recommend enough if you guys love One Piece and theories. But he goes on to say that this mystery character could be the past user of the smoke fruit. And this could be a very interesting way to reintroduce Smoker to the story, because as we know, it was said that the smoke on Esperia was toxic and it did kill thousands of people. And that also could work very well into him being an admiral, because I don't think he's a Holy Knight. I think he accompanied Mars to Esperia, and that is where we are currently. I'm honestly just super hyped to see where 1186 goes. I want to know why Leuven was Daimir Versied, how he was Daimir Versied. I want to know if Emu actually showed face there. What is going on? How does Brook get out of here? I honestly don't know who this mystery character is. There's truly so much going on. With that being said, guys, if you guys enjoyed this, please consider like, following, and subscribing. This was a joy to make. And if you guys haven't, just go read the chapter yourself. I feel like the best way to experience these chapters is through reading it personally, and that leaves you to pick up a lot of subtle details that you might have missed in this video, you might have missed in other videos, and you can also craft your own theories, stuff like that. And if you do, please drop it in the comments below, as I love hearing all your guys' theories, and it adds on to mine personal, and it allows me to make even better ones. But be on the lookout for a theory video about 1185, as I got a lot going on in my brain and I just got to wrap around what is going on. But of course, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and peace out.